All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Golf Balling Podcast, episode 265 here. Once again, joined by just myself. Now, that might be a little confusing. Yesterday, I did a solo podcast essentially on um, details of losing golf balling and just kind of that story. And I ended up deleting it after about an hour because I feel like it came off very wrong. It came off as, almost some semblance of like a pity party, when in reality, my point was I want to do more stuff like this. And so you probably see the title of this podcast. I made a TikTok and Instagram video a few days ago saying the best golf advice you'll ever hear. And I was just rambling on about why driving is now so important. And if you are, I would say, shooting around 100 plus, especially like if you haven't broken 100, and honestly, maybe if you haven't even broken 90, I think the driver is the most important club in the bag. And I've got a bunch of people, rightfully so, saying you're wrong. You got to rely on short game. But I'm going to break down my point here with a couple of statistics for this podcast. I remember this is available on YouTube. And if you're watching this on YouTube, this is available on streaming, but I'll put the links to our Instagram golf balling, our Twitter down below, the podcast, all that fun stuff. So, whatever site you're on, it's available on streaming or video, I should say, but apparently my desk is wobbly. And so if I do like this, I was watching it the other day and I was like, ooh, it's kind of making me a little sick. So I just got a new driver the other day. I had a Nike Covert prior to this, and I just bought a Callaway Epic from Facebook Marketplace. I'm going to look up when the Nike Covert came out, and I'll even throw it on the screen here. If you don't know what the Nike Covert is, this is exactly what I have. So think 2014 Rory McIlroy if you're just listening to this. It's red. I've got like a cool red shaft on it, and it looks just like this. And I've got a really badass red grip, and you can't even see the damn screen. My bad. This is what it looks like. All right. Nike VRS Covert 2.0. And I was just talking to my uncle about this. Technology isn't changing that much in the sense of like, oh, I just bought a 2024 driver. I need to get the 2025 driver because of the new technology. I told my uncle, and he agreed. It's kind of like more of a decade thing at this point with technology, maybe like 5 years even. I'm not a huge golf nerd in that sense, but I wish I was, to be quite honest with you. So I bought a Callaway Epic that I think was like 2017. So I went from a 11-year-old driver to like an 8-year-old driver. But basically, Nick used to have the Callaway Epic, and once he was changing his drivers, he's got a bunch of clubs. And when we moved down to Florida, he let me use his Callaway Epic, and I loved it. And he's a good golfer, obviously. And I finally wasn't hitting the ball 250 yards. And unfortunately, somehow it broke, and I feel really bad. I feel really bad about that. And I have no idea how I cracked his driver. So I saw Facebook Marketplace, 100 whatever, and I snagged it. Here's some stats for you. All right. The average male golfer, regardless of age or handicap, drives the ball about 225 yards. Now, if you're a female watching this, the average is about 178. Now, I'll just say real quick, now that I even brought it up, I'm not even going to factor in women into this because, first of all, I don't think many women watch this, but the same is going to apply. I just don't know your guys' statistics. 180-yard average drive for a woman, like that sounds solid. That sounds really solid to me. But here's where things get interesting, all right? So if you're shooting 100, if you're shooting around 100, you're probably driving at 225, all right? Now, obviously, that'll change, especially if you're older and a little bit bigger. The average 50-year-old two handicap is 241 yards. So when I play with Ryan on the podcast, we're driving the ball the same distance. Now, Ryan is only, I think, like 10 years older than me, a little bit under 10 years older than me. But I would say I have more, I don't know, just like power, more speed than Ryan. We drive the ball the same distance. All right. Ryan's not a big hitter. Ryan is phenomenal with his irons. He's phenomenal putting. He's great with his irons, like phenomenal with his irons. And he's very good short game. All right. Ryan and I are probably, around similar. He golfs way more. So I would say he probably currently is beating me a lot more than vice versa right now. But we're also on the same teams. Anyways, my point is about 240 to 250 is probably where you are if you're like over the age of 40 and you're just a good golfer and you've been playing golf for the last couple of years or your lifetime. You're probably driving the ball about 250. And it's usually straight, right? We're going to get to that. The point is even getting the ball straight is huge. Now, a 23-year-old scratch golfer, the average drive distance is 280 yards, okay? 260 yards of carry and 280 yards of total distance. So, like I said, for me personally, with my Nike Covert, I like to go to the gym. I like to stay in shape. I like to attack the golf ball. I shouldn't be hitting it 240 to 250 yards. Now, I don't play from the tip, so it's really not that big of a deal, right? I'm usually still hitting not a 4 iron, not a 5 iron, unless it's a long par four. We're playing a par five or whatever. I usually have a good number, 7 iron, 8 iron, maybe even a 6 iron, whatever it is. I like it. But when I'm playing with a Callaway Epic or an up to date driver, I'm hitting that ball 280 yards. And the point just is, I think if you are, like I said, I would say 15 plus handicap, maybe, yeah, around a 15 plus handicap. So you're shooting around a 90. That's why I think you got to drive the ball. Because every time I play with, and I don't mean to call anybody out here, but anytime I play golf with like one of my buddies or, family member or whatever it is, and they're just not a golfer, I've been playing golf since like the seventh grade, I think, so I can hang in there. If you throw me out on a golf course right now, I'm, going to try and break 80 still. And if we're not playing the tips, hopefully I do break 80. But anyways, my point is, I was just playing on Easter, and I'm not even saying about my family specifically, but my whole philosophy with, if you are not breaking 100 or 90, you got to go to the range and just smash drives. The point of that was more so mentally. And I'll bring up a tweet here. This is from somebody, I won't even bring up his name. Amateurs stand to gain more from better putting. And by the way, this guy is right, and I am wrong for like 90% of the golf world. There was like one person who agreed with me in these comments. Amateurs stand to gain more from better putting and chipping than from driving. Saving yourself from a three putt saves a full stroke. Hitting 9 fairways won't save the amateur from missing greens and having to rely on short game. So my philosophy is, he's correct. But if you are just a normal dude playing golf, you're probably golfing on, a Saturday or Sunday every weekend with your buddies, or every other weekend with your buddies, or maybe once a month with your buddies. I would rather three putt 18 holes than be hitting three from the left rough, near the OB stake or near the water, and hitting 270 into the pin. But even just mentally knowing that I'm hitting three, it's very annoying. And so when I play golf and I can't hit the driver straight, and I have no idea where it is going, I hate the round. And I'm over dramatizing this, but like, if you step up to the tee and you don't know where your ball is going, it's like, fuck. And that's where you start to see people take the driver out of their bag and they're ripping 3 irons, or they're ripping 3 woods, they're ripping a 2 iron, whatever it is. People have real bad driver issues. So my philosophy and my point is, because he's correct, saving yourself from a three putt saves a full stroke, and hitting 9 fairways isn't going to save you any strokes. But personally, I would rather hack it on the green, and because putting, man, is all just feel. Short game is all just feel. Obviously, you need to practice, bunker shots, a lot of practice. But at the end of the day, once you start golfing more, a lot of you guys understand, you've been listening to the pod for a while. A lot of you guys are sticks. I played with a lot of you guys. It's a lot of just feel. I think John Daly was the one who said that. Now, in my backyard growing up, my mom had a really nice yard, and you used to hear it about on the Golf Blind podcast. There's videos on YouTube. I made a 9-hole golf course in like 8th grade in my backyard. 9-hole golf course. It was awesome. There were a couple of different greens. There were trees. You'd play with like those yellow or those orange foam golf balls. So even if it hit a house or theoretically a window, it's not going to break it. And I feel like that's kind of how I got, really good short game feel. Because when I first got to high school, I was like 4'11". Is that even a height? I was like 4'10", 4'11". I was not even 5 feet. And I was on the golf team, and I was still playing with like a top flight kid set. It was so embarrassing, actually. Then my dad blessed me with the Nike Covert and the Nike Apexes. But I would hit the drive like 170 yards, 180 yards, maybe 200 yards. Like I was 4'10", probably like 100 pounds or something around there. Like I was a very small dude. So I had to rely a lot on short game and putting. But my drives would go straight, That's just my philosophy there. I played in the Outer Banks, I think this past summer, and that was around July. No, it was probably August. So in like August of 2024, I was in the Outer Banks playing golf. I actually have their hat somewhere. I think it's North Shore Country Club. It's not an actual country club. It's just a nice little municipal course on the south side of Outer Banks. And I didn't bring my clubs. I actually drove down and I didn't bring my clubs, which was really stupid. And so I played with my uncle's set. My uncle doesn't even have a driver. Like he does not have a driver in his bag. So I was hitting 3-wood off every tee, and I hate hitting 3-wood. I've got a Nike Cobra at 3-wood, and I hate hitting my 3-wood because I have no idea where the hell it's going, especially off the tee. It's very chaotic. That thing can duck hook. Like I can sky that high. The 3-wood off the tee is an issue. But my point is, I was playing with my uncle's 20-year-old golf clubs, hitting his 3-wood, and I was striping every 3-wood. And so because I'm not hitting it into the woods and I'm not mentally exhausted by the fifth hole because I'm 12 over, I don't care about score. You know, I I want to say 2 over because I was like close to the best round of my life. The best round of my life on 18 was 1 over at Grand Geneva with Nick. I think as like a senior in high school or going into freshman year of college. And I was like 2 over with a golf club I had never played without a driver. Obviously, we're playing like the white tees or blue tees or whatever. It's not a long course in general. So the driver distance isn't the issue here. But the point is, I felt comfortable with the 3-wood. And I was like 2 over on 14 green. I remember this very vividly because this was kind of extremely scarring at the time, and it ruined my round and it ruined my day. Um, I was on the 14th hole and I just striped another 3-wood drive. I had like a 10, 12 for birdie, and I was 2 over. And I know my career is 1 over. There's a par 5 coming up soon. I've played this course numerous times in my life, and just some stupid YouTube issue came up. Just like a personal, nothing I could have done, but it was something I had never experienced, and it was not like a copyright strike, if you know what I'm talking about, but it was something around those lines. And I don't want to get into like the nitty gritty specifics of it, but it was kind of complicated because I was doing like the sponsorship YouTube video, and YouTube flagged me down. And it was like the third time I had done this sponsorship, and it was lasting all the way till like March. And I was, worried and stressed. So, I ended up not making birdie. And I'm sure I went, bogey, 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 bogey on the final 4 holes. So my point is, yes, logically, if you are trying to, logically, if you're trying to save yourself strokes, you'd rather not 3-putt and just hit a straight drive. But there's a reason Bryson DeChambeau took 8 protein shakes a day 2 years ago, 3, 4 years ago during COVID. And there's a reason, I mean, he used to be a good golfer too, but there's a reason that people are talking about shrinking or extending courses and shrinking the golf ball, or what's that goddamn word that I can't even think of on a golf podcast. On Golf Balling Podcast, episode 265, I can't think of the word that they want to do with the golf balls that I'm very much for on the tour, which is a whole thing for another day. So my point is not logically like strokes. My point is just more confidence and mentality. And if you're hitting your drive 250 yards down the middle of the fairway or on the fairway, that's going to keep you in the game longer than hitting it OB and, needing. That's like the meme, dude. The meme is like having buying a dozen golf balls. And by the 9th hole, it's like, okay, we have to stop playing golf because I ran out of my 12 golf balls in the 9 holes. And most of those are coming from drive. So that's just my point. That's just my philosophy is when I golf, even at my 7 handicap skill level, whatever, I'm good at golf. Yeah, we get it. I am infuriated no matter what my score is. If I can't hit a freaking drive straight, if I don't know where that drive is going, I am pissed off. It's stressful. It's annoying. But if you go to the driving range and you just rip drivers and it's the most confident bag in your club in your bag, who cares if you 3-putt 12 of the 18 holes and you shoot 92, but you're smashing drives and you're feeling good? Because like I said, at the end of the day, you're going to get the feel from putting and you're going to get the feel from wedges from playing more golf and experiencing different lies and different conditions and all that fun stuff. So, yeah, that's it. Let me know if you enjoyed, if you agree. Like I said, we're making this on YouTube, but this would be episode 265. If you want to shoot me a DM on golf balling or respond to a comment on YouTube or something like this, if you want to do a podcast where it's just me, I haven't done a solo pod in like I want to say 2 or 3 years, and Nick's been on the podcast like 2 out of the last 3 times, and Ryan's been holding it down with me for months and months and months. But that was what I made, kind of a shitty podcast YouTube video yesterday. Was just the overall point is I want to do more stuff like this. So let me know if you enjoy it. Let me know if you agree or if you disagree, and we'll probably see you on Monday or Tuesday with Golf Balling episode 266 and a Memorial Tournament recap and all that fun stuff. So see you.